is Lukas, if I said that right, and he will be talking to us about the stands in CIS countries, which we haven't really focused on too in depth here at the IOC in a while. He is the head of the Operations Control Center at Eurojet, and it's based in Prague, Czech Republic. It's a ground handling agent network that specializes in the region of Eastern Europe and also on Central Asia. So Lukas has worked in aviation for the past 15 years. Prior to Eurojet, he spent 11 years working for Czech Airlines. He did everything from being an airport check-in agent and also working the ramp. And then he moved into the operations side where he was manager of all their charter flights. His current position at Eurojet involves overseeing hundreds of different handling requests, permits, fuel releases, flight plans on a daily basis. And many of the flights that he helps coordinate do go to the Central Asian region. He is a native of the Czech Republic, and he's a graduate of the University of Economics in Prague. So please welcome Lukas.
So good afternoon, ladies and gents. Let me thank Nancy Pierce and everyone at Jefferson for the opportunity to participate in IOC and NBAA. Thanks, Nancy, for a very nice introduction, because the name was really spelled perfect. You are the first one in my life who said it correctly. And as many as of you can hear, I'm originally from Eastern Europe, so I'm sorry if I'm difficult to understand, but actually, if you fly to this region, you will have to hear people that sound like me. So this is good practice for you, so you can understand what we are saying there, okay? Anyway, I do promise I'm going to speak slowly, so you can understand as much as possible. I forgot to move the slide. So let me introduce you with the expected outline of today's presentation. We will start with a short and really quick geography lesson, following the stand and CIS countries introduction. Then we go to discuss some airport specifics, and I'd like to wrap up with some good-to-know tips for this region. So, as already mentioned, I'm from the Czech Republic, based in Eastern Europe, and honestly, based on several news broadcasted at CNN, I decided to start the presentation with a really short geography lesson, clarifying the fact that Czech Republic and Slovakia are two different countries. One thing we do not like to when people refer to us as Czechoslovakia. We used to be one and the same, but almost 25 years we aren't. So make sure, if it works, yeah. Make sure you guys don't mix Czech Republic. I appreciate it. So anyway, before I proceed with the introduction of CIS and STEM countries, I'm really interested to know if anyone has ever flown to this region before. So can you please raise your hand up? Oh, it's still a good number. Okay, I was going to be increased after the presentation. Because we know why people are flying to United States, Africa, and Western countries, but why to fly there? So on the slide, I have listed like 3 main incentives. It's really emerging markets, oil, gas, and mineral industries, and flight support or trip support wise, Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan are great fuel stops once planning a trip not only to Asia, but to Afghanistan and Iraq too. When speaking about the STEM countries, what do we actually think of? STEM countries are those located in the Asian region, and their official names are ending with the suffix "stan", which, by the way, in the local language can be understood as a place to live. However, we can surely say that the common naming "stan" is where all the similarities end, because there are more than 100 different ethnic groups, and also the used languages are quite unique. And moreover, the closer you get to Russia borders, the more Russian Orthodox believers you can meet compared to Muslims in the southern states. So that is all having a strong influence on culture and family life there. Anyway, there is one fun fact, hopefully fun fact for you. All these countries share one significant and common object in their culture. It's called the Akateke horse. That is known for speed and intelligence and for the price, because the best foal might cost up to $1 million US. So an alternative horse might be a used Cessna Caravan, which costs basically the same as the horse. But I guess you guys will decide for a used Cessna here. So when speaking about STEM countries, we have to mention a group of states that represent CIS, which in the full expression is Commonwealth of Independent States. And we should ask the question, what's the difference between STEM countries and CIS? So basically, one thing, STEM countries are only geographical term, and for another, they do represent neither political or economic union like CIS. But most of the STEM countries are CIS members. So let's move to the airport specifics, where we will focus on traffic rights, handling, visa, and third-party services. Once talking about the airport specifics, I briefly show you the most used entry and exit points, inform you about the required documents to obtain the clearance, and any applied restrictions you should be aware of when planning a trip to this region. So I'm sure that those of you who are flying to or over this region can easily recognize mostly used entry and exit points, such as Adeki and Gezbe on the eastern border of Azerbaijan, and Titur and Sarin in Kazakhstan airspace. Anyway, I'm showing these slides just to remind us or demonstrate that the clearance is always valid for approved airways only. So it's not possible to use other entry-exit points unless being additionally approved by CAA. In regards to mandatory documents, I will just point out those which are listed under letters F and L, because the noise certificate is not that common in the United States, but basically we, or your service provider, need any similar document where the maximum takeoff weight of the aircraft is officially listed, and it's necessary to calculate ATC and navigation fees. And taking into the consideration Kazakhstan landing permit, so not the overflight, just the landing, power of attorney is a must, and it's similar to those usually used in Africa, and it's officially giving the third party right to act on your behalf with the authorities. On this slide, I would just like to underline the fact that official notice is usually 72 hours, but as many of you know, 72 hours can come in 1 hour, especially for the air ambulance flight. Requests can be submitted in both English and Russian language, but definitely the Russian mutation is more than welcome. So in regards to the clearance validity, I would say that for most of the countries, 72 hours allowance is a standard, and no updates are required if changes are made in expected arrival or departure time within the original time frame. All other changes must be additionally approved. Unfortunately, this part of the world has been known as a place of issues and conflicts. Therefore, on the next slides, I'd like to draw your attention to some of the biggest obstacles once planning a flight to this region. So let's start with Georgia and Russia. As you know, many of you are familiar with the fact that Tbilisi in Georgia will be the best option for a diversion airport to Sochi in Russia, but it was simply impossible due to the political restrictions, since no direct flights between Georgia and Russia are allowed. even the positioning flights and ferry flights, except a scheduled service that is provided by Russian National Aeroflot. The same applies to Tajikistan and Uzbekistan. This is good to know when planning a flight from Kabul in Afghanistan to Tashkent, that you cannot make a fuel stop on the way in Dushanbe, located in Tajikistan. Last but not the least one is a good example, Azerbaijan and Armenia. Even an ambulance flight with an Armenian passenger on board is strictly prohibited in Azerbaijan airspace. So let's move to another part of the speech that is covering the airport specifics and with the following topics. We'll say more detailed info about ground handling services and fuel in Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan, and briefly mentioning also other important locations. So just to refresh your memory, cities Almaty and Astana in Kazakhstan are the best and most efficient fuel stops when planning a flight to Beijing in China. And what you probably think of about Kazakhstan is Mr. Sasha Cohen, alias Borat. And I have to say, by the way, that this movie wasn't filmed in Kazakhstan at all, but in another eastern country. It was country of Romania. But thanks to this comedy movie, the number of visa applications to Kazakhstan has increased for 20%. So thanks for it. Another picture is showing the famous place in Kazakhstan that is called Baikonur. That's the place where satellite and space flights are launched. So it's at the moment the airfield is rented to Russians. So it's, let's say, kind of Russian version of Fort Lauderdale. And as you can see on the picture, there are no issues with the hamburgers and baggage equipment. All is in place. But in all our serious business, I'm here to promote these countries and showing you the real pictures and the real life there. So on the slide you can see the capital city, Astana, with the famous observatory that the locals call the Big Chupa Chups. And I was in Astana a few days ago, and I can confirm that it's a really nice and modern city, but you have to go there during the summer period because in the winter the average temperature is around -14 Fahrenheit, so kind of chilly. The next slide is showing Almaty, which is being the commercial capital. It's a beautiful scene of mountains resort that are located nearby the city. And the next slide is showing us a VIP terminal at Almaty Airport. We can easily say that Kazakhstan major airports meet all standards of business aviation and having their VIP facilities, but be patient there, okay? It's not a Western Europe, even US standard. So to summarize some technical and key facts, and in addition to what is on the slide, I'll just tell you some more facts about Astana. The Astana airport is located just 11 miles from the city, but there are huge traffic jams, so it might take up to 2 hours to get to the city. Actually, there are no limitations on maximum takeoff weight. There is one business terminal which can easily accommodate up to 10 passengers. There are no issues with the parking since 53 parking stands are available. No hangar space, so be ready for the icing. And I would say in the year 2017, a big trade show is planned in Almaty. It's called Expo, and a huge and large investments, including a new terminal building, are expected. So on the next slide, just summarize Almaty. Almaty is more or less well known as a cargo hub, including dangerous goods storage facility, and one fact is having the longest runway in Central Asia. So the same what Kazakhstan means for technical stop on the way to China.
Azerbaijan offers 2 flights heading to India, Southern Asia, Afghanistan and Iraq.